Hey everyone, welcome to another video. As always, my name is Jay, and welcome to part 3 of my in-depth review of the new Minitaire Paints, the awesome paint line from Badger, the airbrush company. And for this part, I will be focusing on, this is probably my favorite part of the review, the Ghost Tints. When I first heard about these, I was really excited. It's really cool, the candy-colored paints that you can just apply to your model afterwards. So you apply a gradient first and then apply this over it, and it goes over the gradient and produces some nice effects. I thought it was really cool. It sounded awesome. So this is obviously this is my in-depth review of these particular paints. So to start off with, part 1 of this review, I'll be looking at the colors. As you can see in front of me, there is an actual really nice wide selection of colors. I really like these colors. My favorite one by far is Plasma Fluid. After trying it out, I really like the nice light blue. It's a great color, but it also has another blue, which is just called blue. There's green, 2 types of yellow. There's a yellow and then a golden yellow. Right here, golden yellow. There's orange, magenta, blue, as I mentioned, purple, brown, midnight blue, which is a really, really dark blue. It's much darker than the actual blue. Oil discharge, which is a black, and fresh blood, red. And then finally, my, of course, favorite color, plasma fluid, which is a light blue. So just to start off with the color selection, as you can see, tons of colors, right? One of every color you'll probably want to use, and I really do like the shades. Starting off with the shades, I really like them, as I just said. They're really nice, and you'll see when I apply them to the miniatures, they just turned out really nice. I really love the yellows, the greens. The green is a little bit of like a Nurgly green, so especially if you're doing Nurgle things, I'd recommend the green for that one. They have 3 colors of blue. My favorite is by far the Plasma, which actually is really nice emulator of Plasma. I'll mention in a moment after my review, I had a little problem with the Fresh Blood. But besides that, it should be a good red. And oil discharge is nice black in case you're covering it over. But yeah, as I said, the great color selection. I really like them. They have a little bit of everything, as I said, basically any color you want to do. Which miniatures would I see myself using these for? Obviously, with these type of paints, I wouldn't see them going on everything. Primarily anything with armor would be great. I could see myself using it on. Any Space Marine chapter, I could see myself using them for War Machine. On any of the Jacks, for example, these would be great. On vehicles, these would be great. Yeah, even Tyranids. I was just thinking maybe I'm going to try these in the near future, because obviously the new Tyranid Codex just came out. But I think that these would actually be really cool to try on all of the carapaces of the Tyranids, because it provides that nice glossy coat. And it'd be really cool to apply a gradient under it and then have it, coat over it. But yeah, so that's just my first part of this review. But obviously, the true test is seeing how they stand up when applied to miniatures. So I decided to use some miniatures I had lying around my office, primarily the Dark Potential miniatures from Mini Wargame. So we'll see how they use and see how they stack up.
And so I began with a black primer. I used Vallejo Surface Black Primer on them, and this is a great primer. It tends to shrink really quickly and produces a great effect. The reason why I like to use these miniatures is because the detail is so fine on them, so it'll be a great way to test how these paints interact with the fine details. And as I said, I just applied a nice black primer to start a nice gradient of shades on them before applying the candy coatings to them all. And when possible, I tried to separate the helmets since I was applying a different color to them just for easy purposes. I applied them separately and I glued them on afterwards. And next I applied a gray dusty ground from Minitaire at a 45-degree angle on all these miniatures, just to create an even more contrast on the miniature, so that way black is facing downwards and everything else should be the nice light gray. And then I repeated this procedure on all of the miniatures. As you can see, just hitting them with a 45-degree angle. And also, as I mentioned, feel free to use gloves. It prevents it from getting on your fingers. And then finally, I used Snow White, a really nice, the lighter white color from Minitaire, and I applied it at a 90-degree angle right from above on the miniature. And then I also used the Snow White just to pick out certain details that I really like, such as the feet or certain parts of the guns that I really wanted to stand out when I hit it with the candy. So already, within a matter of moments, I've already produced a really nice gradient of shades on the miniature, but that's not where the fun lies, and that's not where the test is of this review. I want to hit it now with the candies. So of course, after applying the final color, I just made sure that it was completely dry before starting to apply the candies. So one by one, I chose a different color, and I applied them to the entire miniature, or at least into all the areas that I wanted to. I avoided the head, for example, on the captain. Here's me applying the purple, which I really like. The first thing that I picked up on is you have to go in very light coats with these Minitaire paints. If you go too heavy, it gets very dark very quickly. Now this is actually me applying the blood red, and I found it to be very magenta. I was quite surprised at the purplish color of the blood red. I figured it'd be more red and less magenta. So I applied a deeper color, maybe thinking that I applied too light of a color, but no, it turned out very magenta. And then finally, here's the green. It's actually one of my favorite colors of this one, other than the really light blue, the plasma color, which ended up being my favorite. But once again, I just applied it to the entire miniature, as you can see here. And then for the helmets, I applied orange. And I really see these as being very cool for the helmets, because it creates a nice glaze, shiny appearance. And then, of course, I let them dry. I let them dry for about 18 and 24 hours, and then I just painted over some details using white. The reason why I used white over them specifically was to see if the colors would bleed through to the white, and after waiting about 18 hours, I didn't find any bleeding through whatsoever. And here are the final colors and how they looked. So as you can see, there's the blood red. As I said, it's very magenta. Here's the midnight blue, which is a very dark blue I found, but it actually is very nice. As I said, the key is to go very lightly and produce light coats a little bit at a time with these miniatures. It's what I found lead to the best results, because otherwise it gets very dark very quickly. That is actually the golden yellow, and it's actually a great yellow to me, as well. As I mentioned, the face plates are orange. And that is the normal yellow. The middle I did the orange as well, just to show some contrast. I didn't finish painting that particular model. And here is actually the ones where I did most of the painting with the greens. And as you can see, it turns out great. It produces a really nice color, and the gradient still stays very strong on it. And putting the white over it just blended and looked really well.
And so, as you can see, they went on very easily. They were easy to use. The only thing I have to give caution to is the drying time. I intentionally use the color white, as I just mentioned, because white is the easiest color for the colors to bleed through. And I was trying to see how long you should give them to dry before they actually bleed through the whites. And it turned out to be about 18 hours to about 24 hours. 18 hours was my minimum I recommend. Definitely let them dry after using them. And obviously, if you're a speed painter, that might put a little bit of a restraint on your painting time. But if you're a batch painter like me, shouldn't be a problem. You just spray them up one day, continue to paint them the next. So no big problem there. But overall, I love these paints. As I mentioned, the only one that came off a little bit off to me was the red. It came off very magenta-y. It was a very purplish color. I was kind of surprised by that based on the previous videos I've seen. I think it was just a batch issue, and I'm guessing that it's been fixed since I got these paints. I really love the blue, as I mentioned. This just looks awesome, and just all the colors I used. Great color range, easy to use, and I love them. That's what I'm saying. So my review of this particular paint, other than the one color which I had a problem with, no problems whatsoever, and I love them. I'd highly recommend using them, especially if you have armored armies, such as Space Marines, your Jacks for War Machine, and as I'm going to try Mountain Tyranids in the future and see how they work too, because I'm just excited to use these paints. It's kind of fun. You know, it's an interesting procedure just to apply candy coats to your miniatures. But yeah, it was very fun to try out. I definitely recommend them. And yeah, that's my review. So as you can see, they went on great, and they produce some great overall effects with relative ease. So thank you very much for watching this in-depth review of part 3 of my review of the Minitaire paints. Stay tuned for the next part, which I will be going over the varnishes. All 3 types, and seeing how they stack up to the varnishes of other companies. And yeah, please like the video, comment in the comment section down below, and subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. It really does help a lot. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.